受中美贸易战影响，宝润皮具我们的损失有多大，你知道吗？
The impact of the U.S.China trade war on our leather goods has been huge. Do you know how much we've lost? On the production line, we've already started working on these American brand woven bags. The orders are already in, and we can't stop, even though we've finished 12,000 units. They're packed halfway, and quality checks are halfway done. Now, the American brand is saying they don't want them anymore. Our warehouse on the second floor is empty, except for one warehouse manager. There are 100,000 bags here, all for U.S. orders. Should we still ship them? Warehouse number 3 has 40,000 bags. We shipped 20,000 this morning to Shekou Port in Shenzhen, but they were sent back to us and re-entered the warehouse. The business owner declared resilience, planning to shift from exports to domestic sales and encouraging patriotic purchases. A commenter noted, "Many are selling this way now, making it hard to identify genuine foreign trade manufacturers." Another added, "Export to domestic sales pitches are common, and soon even authentic leftover export stock may vanish." High U.S. tariffs have idled many export manufacturers reliant on U.S. orders, particularly in the Yangtze and Pearl River deltas, where most U.S.-focused traders and factories have halted operations. Some firms receive notices of suspended or canceled U.S. orders, with new negotiations failing, affecting countless businesses and workers. Owners are enduring this tough period, hoping tariffs are temporary, but reports suggest the U.S.-China tariff standoff will persist. The critical question is how long they can sustain operations. Manufacturing profit margins, typically below 5%, are strained, though export service providers like cross-border e-commerce enjoy 30% margins. At 145% tariffs, most transactions result in losses, rendering business unsustainable. Owners continuing operations face dwindling cash flow, likely supporting only a few months. Without tariff relief, many predict widespread bankruptcies among export manufacturers by June. More concerning than tariffs is the permanent relocation of orders. Prolonged high tariffs could transform current shutdowns into a lasting unemployment crisis. On April 18, Premier Li Qiang, at a state council meeting, urged stabilizing foreign trade, the stock market, and real estate, reflecting anxiety over potential U.S.China decoupling. A commentator remarked, "Facing imminent decoupling, authorities offer only slogans. Stabilizing trade is unfeasible, fueling their anxiety." A foreign trade professional stated, "Media outlets, ignorant of trade, misled the public. Blocking foreign trade would severely harm China."
出口转内销是行不通的，不做国际贸易必死。第一就是价格。
Listen up. Switching from exports to domestic sales is a dead end. Without global trade, businesses are toast. First, it's all about the price. Export goods rake in fat profits, but try competing with Pinduoduo. You're crushed in seconds. Domestic sellers cut corners to slash prices, leaving no room for folks to care about international quality goods. And even if you've got quality, without a brand name, it's worthless. JD.com, just parroting party policies. Even their big shot, Liu Qiang's hustling takeout now. Second, our export stuff, like swimming pools or surfboards, has zero demand here. Abroad, they're everyday items, but in China, who's got the cash or lifestyle for that? Step outside, see how foreigners live. It's a different world. Someone else commented, "Finally, someone's hitting the nail on the head. Foreign trade is the only surviving engine of China's economy. It directly affects the other two stabilization targets that Li Qiang mentioned, the stock market and real estate." Goldman Sachs estimates that up to 20 million Chinese workers could lose their jobs due to shrinking exports. Many laborers are flocking to the gig economy, like food delivery and ride-sharing, where competition is fierce and pay is dropping. Didi driver Chen Xiaolan admitted, "There are too many cars, but not enough orders." Another delivery driver, Lu Mingdong, switched to being a rider after his business failed. At the same time, protests related to the economy are on the rise. According to data from the China Dissent Monitor, under Freedom House, economic-related protests in China increased by 41% in the fourth quarter of 2024 compared to the previous year, hitting a historic high and reflecting growing social dissatisfaction. A Morgan Stanley survey found that 44% of Chinese consumers are worried about unemployment. Data from QuantCube shows that job vacancies in China have decreased by nearly 30% year on year. The Chinese government has clearly recognized the looming danger of a worsening unemployment situation. Recently, the General Office of the Communist Party of China and the General Office of the State Council issued an opinion on building a high-quality employment service system for college graduates. The opinion specifies that graduates who have not found employment will be included in the minimum living guarantee if they meet certain criteria. It also mandates continuous monitoring of the employment status of graduates within 2 years of leaving school. This opinion was formulated on November 3, 2024, but it was only published by Xinhua News on April 8th and posted on the central government's official website. Many people have made sarcastic comments. University graduates can now directly apply for social assistance. After years of studying hard, they still have to compete for welfare with low-income families. My grandfather didn't qualify for welfare, neither did my father, but now the university graduate grandson can finally get it. Now we can see the real employment rate. Latest data shows that the number of college graduates in 2025 is expected to reach 12.2 million. According to a report by China's well-known online recruitment platform, Zhaopin, the employment rate for Chinese college graduates in 2024 was 55.5%. Former professor Li Qiang at a normal university stated that the large number of unemployed college graduates pose a threat to the Communist Party's rule. With the U.S.China Tariff War already in full swing, the Chinese government is unwilling to back down. In the face of a comprehensive confrontation with the U.S., if public discontent becomes too great, the government will likely have to take action to ease the situation, making such policies more of a way to cushion public anger. A recent article has gained attention in China lately, discussing how the current crisis in the export manufacturing sector could turn into widespread unemployment if the industry is not saved. The article stated that under the backdrop of the U.S.China Tariff War, China's export manufacturing industry is facing an unprecedented crisis. Many manufacturers who relied on exports to the U.S. have already stopped production. The business owners are waiting and watching, knowing that if the situation doesn't improve, they'll have no choice but to close down. The U.S. has imposed tariffs on Chinese exports reaching up to 145%, and the $800 duty-free threshold for cross-border e-commerce has been permanently eliminated. Some claim that the impact is limited, as U.S.-China trade constitutes only 14% of China's total trade. For instance, in Yiwu's market of 75,000 merchants, just 3,000 engage with the U.S. However, this underestimates the issue. China's exports to Vietnam grew from $83.9 billion in 2018 to $144 billion in 2024, while Vietnam's exports to the U.S. surged from $49 billion to $196 billion. Meanwhile, China's U.S. export share fell from 19.2% in 2018 to 14.3% in 2024, reflecting trade rerouting and broader economic shifts. Although the share of U.S.-China trade appears to have decreased, much of the trade since 2018 has been rerouted through third countries or transshipment trade to the U.S. Companies like Apple, Meta, HP, and Dell are currently instructing their suppliers to increase production in Vietnam and other Southeast Asian countries to avoid Chinese tariffs. The direct consequence of the Trump trade war has been forcing U.S. companies to shift their supply chains out of China, either through outsourcing to friendly countries or bringing them back. Once these companies can no longer hold out, the number of unemployed workers will be staggering. Solving the unemployment problem will be much more costly than rescuing these companies now. In his 3 stabilization plea, Premier Li Qiang mentioned the need to stabilize the housing market. A post on X from Asia Finance recently stated that 3 years ago, many luxury apartments in Shanghai were sold at a 50% discount, but the requirement was for overseas payment. When we reported about this back then, very few people believed it. Now, 3 years have passed. Many high-end properties in Hong Kong have dropped by 50%. In areas around Shenzhen, like Daya Bay, prices have dropped by as much as 70%. According to data from Asia Finance, property prices in 70 cities in China continue to show a downward trend in March 2025. both newly built homes and second-hand homes saw price declines ranging from 2% to 8% compared to last year. The decline was more significant in second and third-tier cities, with drops between 5% and 7%. First-tier cities fared slightly better but still saw declines, generally ranging from 2% to 4%. These figures are for March alone. With foreign trade nearly destroyed and at a standstill, the Chinese government's attempts to stabilize the housing market seem ineffective and unlikely to have any real impact. As for Li Qiang's statement about stabilizing the stock market, one commenter suggested he must be aware of recent actions the U.S. government may take against Chinese companies listed in the U.S. and the potential consequences. According to Bloomberg, Goldman Sachs analysts released a report on April 16, stating that the U.S. institutions hold about 7% of the market value of Chinese companies' American Depository Receipts, ADRs. These institutions may no longer be able to trade them on the Hong Kong market. This means that if companies like Alibaba face forced delisting in the U.S., these investors will not be able to switch to the Hong Kong market to buy stocks. Goldman Sachs data shows that U.S. institutional investors currently hold about $250 billion worth of Chinese ADRs, accounting for 26% of the market value of these companies. Their holdings in Hong Kong stocks account to $522 billion or 16% of the total market value. In China's A-share market, their holdings account for about 0.5%. This means that the total value of Chinese stocks held by U.S. investors exceeds $800 billion. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent recently said that all options were on the table in trade talks with Beijing and warned that if Beijing does not make concessions in the trade war, the U.S. could delist Chinese companies from U.S. exchanges. Goldman Sachs estimates that in the extreme case of U.S. China financial decoupling, U.S. investors could be forced to sell around $800 billion worth of Chinese stocks. Goldman Sachs analysts point out that extreme uncertainty in the global trade system is causing severe volatility in global capital markets and raising concerns about global economic recession and the risk of decoupling between the two largest economies in strategic areas. They predict that if forced delisting occurs, the valuation of ADRs could drop by 9%, while the MSCI China Index might see a 4% decline. U.S. investors could sell A shares in just one day, but exiting Hong Kong stocks would take about 119 days and would take 97 days to exit ADRs. For the Chinese people, a full-blown trade war with the U.S. is something no one wants to see, as it could make life even harder for millions of workers in China. According to data cited by former Premier Li Qiang, by 2020, the gig economy had already employed 200 million people. Despite prices dropping, everything from eggs to food delivery, people are reluctant to spend. Many find it increasingly difficult to earn money. Chief economist Fu Peng at Northeast Securities mentioned in an internal speech that the 20 million new ride-sharing drivers in 2024 are mostly from the middle class, and the shrinking of the middle class has directly led to a sustained decline in overall demand. An editorial in the People's Daily, the Chinese Communist Party's official newspaper, published earlier in April, claimed that the Chinese government is ready to fight the trade war with the U.S. and may grow stronger as the war continues. The article stated, "The U.S. tariffs will impact us, but the sky won't fall. China is a super large economy. In the face of U.S. tariff bullying, we have a strong resilience. We will turn pressure into power." An article that was soon deleted by the Chinese authorities directly countered the Communist Party's editorial, saying, "With external tax hikes and internal pressures, companies are increasingly like being fried in a pressure cooker. The real issue is industrial hollowing out, high youth unemployment, and the collapse of middle-class consumer confidence." The article was quickly deleted by the authorities, and the public account that published it was removed as well. Various bizarre phenomena have recently emerged on Chinese social media platforms, with videos reflecting the real struggles in foreign trade being deleted, while self-proclaimed foreign trade influencers spread misinformation.
美国海关快被中国剪刀给剪懵了。
U.S. Customs is reeling from China's tiny scissors. Who'd guess a package opening tool could drive them nuts? In Yiwu, traders are slick, splitting toy cars into wheels, motors, and manuals, slashing seizure rates by 40%. It's not just breaking down products, it's like Lego-style surgery, rewriting global trade rules. Foshan ceramic folks chop tea sets into raw clay, glaze, and firing services, cutting tariffs from 25% to 9%. Shenzhen's furniture pros go wild, turning wood beds into oak slabs, design fees, and carving hours, dodging 60% of costs via intellectual property tricks. U.S. Customs scratches their heads over part lists, tripping over Section 232 every time. Part by part, orders spike 83% in 5 months. Even Vietnam's coffee beans get split into raw beans and roasting services to skip taxes. EU bosses outsmart lawyers, cracking portable chargers into batteries, shells, and certifications for 37% more profit. Zhongshan's lamp makers declare screws alone, splitting LED bulbs and heat sinks to slash 25% tariffs to 8%. This isn't just dodging taxes, it's Chinese manufacturing leveling up, from selling toys to pitching design and assembly. Electric fans? Now they're motor tech and 3D printing. U.S. tariff lists? They're toast. One commenter remarked in a serious tone, "Be careful of the breakdown and export of rare earth refining equipment." A foreign trade professional posted a video commenting on this.
EU
bosses cracked the U.S. tariffs, turning their list into scrap paper, or so I saw in a viral video. But what's the real deal? Here's my 4 cents, brothers. First, no patent certificates or processing records. If U.S. Customs catches you fudging declarations, your fines and back taxes will dwarf what you dodged. Second, splitting contracts and shipping in batches racks up logistics costs. Declaring screws separately? That's a fortune in extra fees. Did you crunch those numbers? Third, sure, you're thrilled, dismantling everything to dodge tariffs, but your U.S. customers have to reassemble it. With their sky-high labor costs, will they even bother? Fourth, if the U.S. tweaks tariff rules or cracks down on service trade, what's your plan B? Look, the trade war is a mess right now. Don't go grasping at straws. Those vloggers hyping this, they've never run a factory or done global trade. Hear them out, but don't bet your business on it. Online discussions reveal insights into economic shifts. One commenter noted, "Our company CEO was proactive, setting up a Thailand branch before Trump's presidency. It's now operational." Another replied, "A business owner I know built an overseas factory, but with tariffs, costs match China's. After investing 100 million yuan, he's in a bind." A user commented, "EU is efficient, shipping through Shanghai and Ningbo ports, then assembling in the U.S. Another added, "Trump's aim is to return jobs to the U.S. A response clarified, "He targets high-tech industries, not basic assembly plants, which even Kazakhstan rejects." A Chinese user stated, "China's 1.4 billion people consume less than a tenth of the U.S.'s 330 million. Despite leading global production, the work is done, but the wealth stays out of people's hands." A commenter observed, "The U.S.-China trade conflict coincides with China's weakest economy in decades. Western views of China's endless political resilience are misguided. Chinese leadership faces an acute crisis, but Premier Li Qiang's 3 stabilizations remain unfulfilled, appearing as empty rhetoric. The Communist Party prioritizes regime stability, yet U.S.-China decoupling may undermine these goals, potentially leading to significant political consequences."